This is the testing UX PM sync for October 27th, 2021. So Gina and I are catching up on things. Gina, do you want to talk through your follow-ups from last week of what we got accomplished?
Yes. So last week we talked about a lot of things about usability testing and being able to follow up on the research that we carried out for job to be done. So I did a couple things. One, there's a issue that I believe Adam had created for the new researcher for Verify, and it contained all the, I'll show you my screen.
That had the prioritized research on it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we were wondering if the job to be done research for performance testing fell into problem validation, which it does. So anyways, it's added here.
Cool.
I said it's already in progress though, because I have the discussion guide going. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Will actually be taken on. The second thing was, you've already seen this, the usability testing to viable. I created that epic and then I added sub epics within there. And based on,
I added more sub epics to it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Well, I thought I'd added we have some login stuff that's in there as well that I thought I had added. Oh yeah, it's in yeah, the authentication improvements. I might break that out. So it's not a sub epic of the screenshots and annotations, but I think it's required for that larger problem set.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely move that. I ended up placing all of these ones that we're talking about login in that epic, but based on the conversation that you and Scott were having, it seems like we have to get that done first. So
yeah, really, it's just how are we gonna let users log in so that they can leave comments, or how are we gonna allow anonymous? That's just the workflow that we still need to get sorted out, because we didn't do it. Honestly, we didn't do a great job of figuring out that workflow and making it just work for everybody. So we didn't take into account all of the different cases that could have shown up for public projects, private projects, all the things, self-hosted, whatever. So we'll just need to do a little bit more work, or a walkthrough with the new PM. The kind of, here's all the use cases that we need to cover. Here's how we need to, like, we can iterate through the support and say, we're going to start with support for just self-managed, or for just hosted, and just private, and go from there, and then start to continue to build on top of that as we see further adoption.
okay, that sounds like a good, I could make like a flow chart for that to kind of go through those different cases too.
Yeah, I think we'll have, there'll be the flow chart, but it'll be based on like so many diagrams. There's a table of like, here's the type. Is it self-managed? Is it hosted?
Right.
Is it private? Is it public? Is it internal? And are they a user within the namespace or an anonymous person? And what do we make them do to leave a comment? Like, yes, you can leave maybe you can leave a comment, maybe you can comment on a thread. I don't know. Okay.
So I'm going to just make a note of that.
Cool.
Because I need to understand that too. So that would be a good thing.
Yeah, we tried to go for the lowest common denominator. It didn't work out that great.
Lastly, so I created a placeholder for the UX scorecard for usability testing, just to go through visual review tools and see if there's any other additional gaps that I can address. I left a comment for Hyana, so I'm just waiting for a response there, but I went ahead and just created the issues, just assuming that we can do it.
Okay.
So that would be in addition to the recommendations that came out of the job to be done validation.
That sounds good.
And that's the last follow-up thing. Should I just go right into my?
Jump on in.
Highest thing is job to be done research, and then project quality summary designs is the other thing. I've completed a good amount already, but I just want to get those summary designs in a good spot so that Miranda can take them.
Cool. One thing I've noticed as this is totally aside from the project quality stuff, it's more about the workflow that we've been using. And I think it's a reflection on the tool of, it's really hard to realize how many pings you have to answer on that design tab because it's such a small space in that right gutter or that right side. That is to say, A, if I've missed anything, make sure you ping me again.
Okay.
And B, I'll probably leave a comment about that workflow in product and ping Kai or ping, gosh, I don't even know who owns the design area right now, but whatever the right PM is and their designer. And like, this was hard, like, to do and make sure that I actually answered all of the feedback. I have to imagine that if you were leaving a ton of design feedback on something, that would be even harder. Like if we had 25 of those pins out there, how do I iterate through that like you can with unresolved threads on an MR, so that I can go through all of my tasks or whatever you want to call them, all of my pings, and make sure that all of those things are answered.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was making smaller, there's like 15. So I had made little threads for myself that it was easy for me to go through because I have context into what I was creating and I could resolve them. There's no like count of how many times you've been tagged here at all. You do get like the to-dos, but it's not the same. So I understand that.
Yep. So that's just an aside. And yeah, just if I missed anything on the project quality summary, let me know. And then I asked Jackie to review the jobs to be done discussion guide for performance testing stuff. I was just running out of time and I didn't want to hold you back. So it's still on my to-do list. If I get 20 minutes, I'll try to jump in there and take a look, but I might just cross that off at the end of the week and say it's been done, as long as you're feeling good about the way that that's going.
Yeah, she already jumped in and reviewed some of it. So
Awesome.
I'm moving on to, like actually recruiting. So yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna mark that off as a done and not worry about it.
Perfect.
So then the project quality summary issue, if there's a single source of truth where the original requirements are listed, I was just, as I was going through our agenda last night, I thought, I think that the epic is probably that single source of truth or one of the implementation issues there within. If not, you want to just open that up real quick and we'll get it sorted.
Yeah. So maybe this one.
Yeah, because we don't have, there's nothing great on there. So just the UI, is that what we're looking at? Display the two metrics. Yeah, we could update this to show more of what we're going to be looking at, or what we're going to be displaying.
I mean, the other thing is maybe I'm thinking it as more of like, what do I have to do for requirements for design? And maybe that belongs in the design issue, not in the implementation issue.
Yeah. Where I think those things should reflect each other though, right?
Yes.
Your design requirements need to be reflected or be a reflection of what the requirements are for implementation.
Yes.
Like I gave you iterations without a lot of the context because you weren't here for the beginning of this project. That's my bad.
I think that's what I was confused about, because I was trying to jump to see like an original issue of where this kind of came from. I'm actually familiar with this stuff now though, so maybe I can just what I might do is just copy this over to design description in here, iterate on it in here and make sure it's up to date, and then edit it back in this thingy too.
Awesome.
So it's the same.
Okay, that works.
And I'll ping you, and if you want to look it over, if you have time, that's great. But
yeah, I absolutely will do that and make sure that we're good. The one thing I noticed in my proposal is that the first line of it displays the two metrics, contradicts then adding the quality violations. Let's just pull that out for our MVC because we don't have that endpoint from a data perspective, and we're not going to get that endpoint in time for the MVC. So let's just make that the next version of the project quality summary.
Display the two.
What is that? Critical and high violations part of it. I think it's the third bullet down.
Yeah.
Let's pull it out. We're not going to have that data for the MVC. So let's pull that out. And
So will we not even have that card?
Yeah, let's treat it the same way we would the load testing, the browser performance, the accessibility let's just link to the docs page and say
Okay.
to see for more
I think
information
getting
about
confused.
code quality scans, click here.
So then if we're not showing critical and high severity quality violations, are we just showing a total?
We're not even gonna have that data. I did a bad job of saying, hey, this is going to be our MVC, assuming that we'd be able to get that data point. And when it became obvious that we're not going to be able to get that data point, I didn't get that pulled out. And then I kept leaving you feedback that made it sound like we would, and I apologize for that. So I think that the work we've done is informative of the next version of this, and we should try to save that somewhere. But for our purposes of minimum viable, we're going to have just test coverage and just tests executed, passed and failed. Those are going to be our data points to start, and then we'll continue to iterate. I think that it's a great spot though to put, if you're looking for code quality violation data, click here. We can have some of that data on the bottom, and maybe that's our next iteration of giving them a little bit more information about other test features that they can implement.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
That makes me think though, all of our design has been happy path if they have this data. What happens to an ultimate customer who has no test coverage history or doesn't have JUnit XML being uploaded?
Yeah, that was another thing I was gonna ask, because Miranda is currently just implementing the blank page tab. We should probably add like an empty state there to be able to link to the different things you can set up.
Yeah, let's, I'll spin up an issue real quick that is that, and just list out, here's the content to put on the page and the page to link to from there. We have a treatment like that for tests on the pipeline page. If you have no tests uploaded, we give you some data. We'll take a similar approach of you have no test execution history, click here. You have no coverage data, click here. That gives you information about why you should go create that data.
Okay, yeah, that's great. But we're only going to put links to the ones that would actually show up there, right?
I want links to everything. So because we'll continue to build on this, even though we don't give you the data point now, this is a project quality summary. Part of quality is your code quality, your accessibility, your performance. And so we want to give them information about those. Part of that is this is a bit of, here's how you go discover testing features and testing categories and start using more of the feature set.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable? I mean, from
No,
from a UX perspective, I know it clutters up the page some. Also trying to like jam in some discoverability of people don't know about our feature set. Here's some information about it.
No, that makes sense. I did not know that that was part of the goal of this. I thought the goal was just to display metrics for somebody who's like higher up and wants to see them, but I did. So that's good for me to know. And I need to add something to the design for that.
It is, and to help them drive from the top down that people should use other stuff in GitLab.
Yes. Well, and we've been talking about how our testing features are sort of hidden right now anyways. So this will really bring them. Okay.
Cool. All right, so I will, let me add a to-do to our agenda.
I'm gonna do the same.
So I'll go do those. Your last point then, if you have future iterations, a vision issue sounds great.
Okay.
There's definitely stuff that's out of scope that would be awesome when we have the data that we should put in there.
So that's where I can store these, like, for example, the current mockup too, because we're not going to do code quality in the same way.
Yeah, if you want to spin up here's where it could go long term. And then I'd love to use that, get that as a JPEG and stick it into our code testing and coverage direction page as the new vision of where we want to go.
Okay.
Because we have an old mock that Lon and I did like a year and a half ago. or a year ago, that it's outdated. It includes a bunch of project quality information we're not going to include or not going to have on the page potentially because it'll live within SAST and security dashboards. Yeah, if you look down on the bottom of that page where you, oh, not that one.
I'm sorry. I'm like, where is this? I'm going to just go here first and then look it up. I think I saw it yesterday.
If you do test coverage or code testing direction.
I'm going to go.
All right. Just going to send it to you.
Whoever's watching this is going to love this.
Right. We make such compelling videos. All right. Send it to you in Zoom Slack.
Is this it?
Oh, you found it. Yeah, that's it. That's the image. So I'm going to replace that with your version of this is where this is actually going. It's a little shorter term versus super aspirational.
But this gives me ideas to be able to make something that might be super aspirational.
Yeah. And I think I'll try to find the YouTube video for that, link to it. Okay. What we could do, or what you and new PM can do, is record something that talks through, here's what the vision was. And now we're starting to realize that vision. Here's what we've first implemented. Here's our next version of where we want to go based on the feedback we've received from this, et cetera, et cetera. I think that'd be a great update to that direction page in a couple of months as we get closer.
Okay.
I'll
stop sharing.
All right. So my priorities this week, share screen. Supporting internship, that's wrapping up with Scott, working on my transition issues for pipeline execution, wrapping up my user journey research, and for testing feature setup. It's been interesting because I've not really talked about setting up test features. I've not talked to people who are doing pipeline authoring. But I have some ideas based on the workflow of people who look at test results of where we could put some prompts. And we're going to, I think, stick those in as run experiments alongside pipeline authoring as a OKR for Q4 for the team, which will be an interesting way to try to prompt users to, hey, there's a better view of this data outside of logs if you go do this. And then in the pipeline authoring experience and pipeline editor, if we do things like, hey, you have a test stage, but you're not uploading any artifacts. If you upload JUnit artifacts or Cobertura artifacts, you get all of this functionality too. And it's all in core, so we can always display that kind of information. Those are just random ideas. I think there's other things that we can do that solve for that problem of, I don't know. I wish I could get a better view of my data. So we can attack it from both sides, I think, or try to solve that from both sides of I've already run it and I'm looking at it, or I'm editing the pipeline or authoring the pipeline. So wrapping that up. And then I was finalizing OKRs. I think I've been pinging you like mad, along with all of the engineering managers, trying to get everything in alignment. I think we have some good stuff lined up for both teams. And appreciate testing taking on a few of the things from pipeline execution. It's been an interesting balance this week of making sure I'm taking care of both teams and not, shoveling things from one to the other because I'm leaving one. But I think that we're at a good spot as far as UX debt and all of the other things, and appreciate your efforts of going through the backlog and looking at all of those old usability issues to identify some of that UX debt of things that we didn't implement in our initial MVCs. Thank you. Cool. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording real quick.